Alright guys, it's that time of the week again and we are back for some championship score predictions. It's a big weekend we've got coming up in the EFL. After this week we are heading into another international break, so teams won't want to leave this weekend on a sour note. They're going to want to go into the international break with a bit of wind behind their sails. Also worth stressing, we do have a game going on in the championship tonight. That sees West Brom going up against Burnley. If you want to see my prediction for that one, make sure to check out last time's video. Make sure to get all your thoughts in the comments down below. But without any further ado, let's jump in. And starting out with the Friday night game, that sees Watford going up against Oxford. Oxford finally getting back to winning ways in midweek with that 1-0 triumph over Hull City. Really important result for them. It was their first win in 9 matches, lifts them up the table a little bit and eases any fears of being dragged into this relegation scrap at this point in time. This one won't be easy. It's up against a Watford side who have been very up and down in recent weeks. They had that fantastic win against Sheffield Wednesday over the weekend when he put 6 goals past them, but then couldn't follow up with a performance in midweek. They lost against Swansea. Not the best from Tom Cleverley's side. They didn't carry much of a goal threat. In that game, I didn't think. They ended that one with an XG of just 0.35, which was such a far cry from how free-flowing they were looking in that Sheffield Wednesday match. With all that being said, it is important to recognise that Watford have been really strong at Vicarage Road so far this season. They're yet to lose at home and have won 5 out of their 6 matches on home soil. Oxford still looking for their first away win of the season. I reckon we could see a Watford bounce back in this game. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go 2-0 Watford as the Friday game. Next up, and to the first of the Saturday early kickoffs, we've got Cardiff going up against Blackburn Rovers. Since Omar Reza came in at Cardiff, they've won 4 out of their 4 home matches. They've scored 10 goals in that time and have played some really nice football. And they're going up against the Blackburn side, who generally speaking have had most of their troubles on the road so far this season, obviously. They've continued to pick up points on quite a consistent basis at Ewood Park, but away from home, they've not quite had that same joy. Yet to win on the road, they're only averaging 0.6 goals per game in away matches as well. I think the early kickoffs do always tend to throw up a surprise or two. And in terms of head-to-head squad quality, I don't think there's a great deal between these two right now, but with Cardiff being the home side, how good they've been at picking up points at home of late, I'm going to back them for all 3 points in this one. 2-0 Cardiff, I'm going to say, for that game. The next early kickoff sees Middlesbrough going up against Luton at the Riverside. I fancy this one to be a fairly open game of football with chances at both ends of the pitch. Now, for Middlesbrough, it was a fantastic way to bounce back in midweek from that pretty poor performance over the weekend where they shipped 3 goals. They really put QPR to the sword in midweek, put 4 goals past them, ended up with that 4-1 victory. The task for Michael Carrick's side now is just to get a bit of consistency about their play, because results have just been so up and down so far this season. They've only put together back-to-back wins once so far in the Championship, but they will get the opportunity to do so here up against the Luton side themselves, who have been very up and down this season, both in terms of results and performance levels. Neither team has been keeping a great deal of clean sheets of late, so I fancy both of them to get on the score sheet. I just think with Borough at home, I reckon they could edge this one. 2-1 Middlesbrough, I'm saying, but predicting them this season has been pretty much impossible. Next then we go to Stoke up against Millwall as the last of the early kickoffs on Saturday. This one does feel like it will be pretty tight. To put into context how tight Millwall have kept things, especially on the road of late, 4 of their last 5 away matches have seen 1 goal or fewer being scored. So Millwall matches, especially when they're away from home, they tend to make themselves quite resolute and hard to break down. I'm sure Stoke will have a lot of the ball for this one. Whether or not they can capitalise on that, we'll have to wait and see. Now for Stoke, while results on the road have been a bit spotty throughout the season really, at home they've been pretty consistent of late. They are unbeaten now in their last 4 home matches. It makes me think that this one could be a 1-0 either way sort of affair, but I'm going to sit in the fence for this one. 1-1 draw, I'm saying, between these two. Don't think there'll be a great deal to separate them on the day. Next then, and into the Saturday 3 PM kickoffs, we've got Derby going up against Plymouth. Plymouth continuing to be one of the most bipolar up and down sides in the entirety of the EFL. To illustrate the differences of Plymouth at home and Plymouth away, so far this season they've been averaging 2 points per game at home, and away from home they've been averaging 0.14 points per game, which is absolutely baffling. I've never quite seen something like that. Obviously, it was a good win for Wayne Rooney's side in midweek, beating Portsmouth 1-0 in a bit of a crunch game down at the bottom of the Championship. That game could have gone in a different direction had Pompey scored first, but Plymouth managed to keep things tight, and it was Michael Obafemi who scored the decisive goal in the end. From a Derby perspective, I think they'll be happy to be back at Pride Park here now, especially as 4 of their last 5 Championship matches have been away from home, and in a similar vein to Plymouth really, Derby have been a lot more consistent at picking up points on home soil compared to away from home. Just because of that Plymouth record, Derby tending to be quite consistent at home, I'm going to go 2-0 Derby in this game, and no doubt Plymouth will bounce back in their next home match. Next then we go to Leeds up against QPR. This feels like a decent opportunity for Leeds to go into the international break with a good result under their belt, going up against a QPR side who are badly struggling right now. We thought that they were starting to make some steps in the right direction after back-to-back clean sheets in games against Burnley and Sunderland, but that game against Middlesbrough midweek did look quite ugly, shipping 4 goals in that one, just too easy to play against. At the current rate, Cifuentes' men are picking up points. They're currently projected to finish the season with just 32 points, which would almost certainly result in relegation. Now going away to a side like Leeds at Ellen Road, where they do tend to make the pitch very big, this one's going to be really difficult for QPR, it feels like. Leeds have been beaten at Ellen Road once so far this season, but that was by a very disciplined Burnley side. I struggle to see past a Leeds United victory in this one. Score prediction here, I'm going to go 2-0 Leeds. Think it would be fairly routine for Daniel Farke's men there. After that we go to Carrow Road for Norwich up against Bristol City. Norwich looking to bounce back from a pretty shoddy performance in midweek against Sheffield Wednesday, arguably the worst of their season so far. From a Norwich perspective, obviously it's been well documented that injuries really starting to pile up now. The news that Josh Sargent will be out until at least the new year is an absolute hammer blow for that side at the moment, and it's been reflected in their recent form. On the back of losing that game midweek away at Sheffield Wednesday, Norwich are now without a win in their last 5 Championship matches, going up against the Bristol City side who were so close to a brilliant result against Sheffield United, but the Blades hit back with 2 sucker punch goals late on, and that one probably really deflated the mood around Ashton Gate coming into this fixture. Like Norwich, Bristol City also have a fair few injuries to contend with right now. Neither side is by any means at full strength coming into this fixture, and for that reason I think it probably will be fairly tight. You have to give it to Norwich, they have been really good at home. I think they've now gone a full calendar year without being beaten at Carrow Road, which takes some achievement, but whether or not they win this one, I'm not convinced right now. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between these two. I always tend to back a draw with Bristol City, but they have been quite draw heavy this season. After that to a big game at Fratton Park for Portsmouth up against Preston North End. Both sides will want to go into the international break with a result in this game, but how do I see it going? Well, for Portsmouth in midweek it was another frustrating result away at Plymouth. Seemed like a really good opportunity to get some points on the board. They actually started that game out as probably the better of the two sides as well, and had they hit the back of the net first, that game could have unfolded completely differently, but as has been the case recently, they were pretty blunt in the final third, and Michael Obafemi popped up with that late dagger, which ultimately sunk them and has them firmly rooted to the bottom of the Championship table right now. Defensively, Portsmouth have been the worst defence in the league so far this season. They've only kept 1 clean sheet now in their last 12 Championship matches, and when you're giving the opposition at least 1 goal in every game, you just give yourselves a mountain to climb, especially when your forwards are misfiring at the moment, as Pompey's have been. From a Preston perspective, there's not been that many clean sheets in there of late for us recently, so I can see this being a case where both sides do get on the score sheet. It's just a question of which attack is more on form on the day. Preston have had some real struggles on the road of late. It's also worth documenting as well. I don't think we've won away in the Championship since March, which really puts into perspective how badly we've struggled in these sorts of away matches recently. A draw seems a pretty sensible outcome here, but I don't know why, whether it's blind faith or something like that. I just think that North End could sneak this one on the road. 2-1 Preston, I'm saying. saying, but I am a bit apprehensive about saying that with how up and down we've been. Next up to the Stadium of Light for Sunderland up against Coventry. I do fancy this one to be a decent, quite watchable game of football. Sunderland have been so good at home so far this season, haven't they? They've had a pretty impenetrable defence in home matches, having only conceded 2 goals in the 6 games they've had at the Stadium of Light, and in those 6 matches, they've won 5 of them so far. I do think we'll learn quite a bit about Coventry from these next 3 matches in particular, where they've got games against Sunderland, Sheffield United and Burnley. If they want to really climb the table and prove that they are worthy of going toe-to-toe with these top sides in the division, yeah, these next 3 matches are going to tell us quite a lot about them, I think. Coventry have it in them to cause problems to any side in the Championship with the players they've got, especially in the final third. I just think with how strong Sunderland have been at home so far this season, I'm just edging them ever so slightly for this one. 2-1 Sunderland, I'm saying, for that game, but could be a fun one to watch for sure. Then into the first of the Sunday kickoffs, we've got a massive one at Bramall Lane. It's the Steel City derby between Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday. I absolutely love this fixture, and whenever it rolls around, I'm sure that Sheffield will be absolutely booming for this fixture. Now, it is worth stressing, this fixture in recent history hasn't exactly been a goal fest. The last 3 head-to-head meetings between these two sides have all ended as a goalless draw, so fingers crossed we get a little bit more goal-mouth action in this fixture here. Now, in terms of the 2 teams and where they are right now, it's definitely the Blades who are coming into this game as the form team. They've won their last 3 matches. A brilliant late turnaround in midweek against Bristol City. Ashton Gate hasn't been an easy place to go to so far this season, so to have turned that one around late on, I do think is a bit of a statement result. Going up against a Wednesday side who have been pretty up and down recently, I do think it was a massive result for them in midweek to bounce back against Norwich with a clean sheet, coming off the back of what was a pretty terrible performance over the weekend against Watford. With how tight these games have tended to be in recent years, I think we're probably in store for more of the same in this one. The first goal feels crucial. I just think with the Blades having home advantage, I think that squad is further ahead of Wednesday's right now as well. I think Sheffield United take this one by a slim margin of victory. 1-0 Sheffield United, I'm saying, for this one, but it should be a good game. The next game we've got coming up on Sunday sees Hull City going up against West Brom. Now, obviously, we're having to do this prediction before West Brom have played Burnley. That game takes place tonight, so whatever happens in that game could influence a prediction in this one. So if you want to hold out on predicting this game, then feel free to do so. For Hull right now, it does feel like a growing feeling of frustration is bubbling up within that fan base. Tim Volta really could do with a result here to turn the tide before the international break, because there were boos in the away end at Hull in midweek as they lost against Oxford United. It's now no wins in their last 6 games for Hull City. They're not scoring a great deal of goals right now, and while West Brom aren't scoring a great deal themselves either, I think I would give them the slight advantage in this sort of match. It feels like a tight one that could go either way. I've just not got a great deal of faith in Hull right now based on some of their recent performances. Score prediction in that game, I'm going to go 1-0 West Brom. And then to finish off the weekend, we've got Burnley going up against Swansea. Once again, we've got Burnley playing tonight, so if you want to hold out on doing this prediction before that game against West Brom has taken place, then feel free to do so. It's an interesting time to be playing Swansea, because a couple of weeks ago we were speaking about the frustrations they were having not hitting the back of the net and things like that, but a couple of wins back-to-back have really shot them up the Championship. They've scored 3 goals in their last 2 games as well. I think they played some pretty tidy football in that time as well. Burnley have just been a bit of a frustrating watch of late. Obviously, we'll wait and see what happens with them in the West Brom game tonight, but games at Turf Moor haven't exactly been very goal heavy of late, and with Swansea in town, I wouldn't expect a bucket load of goals to be scored in this fixture either. Burnley's last 2 matches at Turf Moor have ended as goalless draws, and I wouldn't be surprised if this one heads down a similar avenue. Feels like a 1 goal either way, or that sort of sitting on the fence sort of result. Score prediction here, why not? I'll go for a 0-0 draw. Don't think there'll be many goals in that one. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and get all your score predictions in the comments down below. Plenty going on in the Championship this weekend, and I want to hear from you guys. But other than that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.